Your why is housed, if you will, in the limbic part of your brain. That's the part of the brain that's responsible for feelings like loyalty and trust, but it doesn't have the capacity for language. There's such a big difference, Dino, between kind of knowing, kind of feeling, maybe thinking this is my why versus knowing what your why is. And the confidence with which you walk, most people walk around wondering if they even have a gift.
Yeah.
Wondering what it is they bring. They know what they do, but they don't really know why they do it. And once they know, and you've seen it yourself, what have you seen with people once they discover their why?
Well, what's funny is you asked me, sorry, I didn't hear it. You asked me. So what I see when people discover their why is that there's just so much clarity and confidence in everything they do. And I can take that for myself because I used to do a why process. I kind of felt the same way with, I never hired Simon, but going through the video and through the book and everything, I created my own process of trying to help people that I would, at my seminars and events, process them through the why concept and finding your why. Because everybody always does the surface level. Well, my why is to provide for my family. That's not your why. That's a scapegoat, right? So I would go all the way down, and that was really good. I really liked the process I do. But to your point, there was never any like still solid, oh, this is what the word is that you're looking for, right? Mm-hmm. This is the discovery here. And so when I came across this, I think I actually saw you. I saw you on a podcast with Mike Koenig's. Yeah. And I went, wait a minute, there's an actual 9 whys. There's an actual process that I don't have to try to figure out. And because it took a while to take people through the process, and the amount of confidence that when I went through it myself, and I went, by the way, we'll go through the whys in a moment, but if you would have just asked me, told me what the 9 whys were, and I would have picked out on my own, I was wrong. Mm-hmm. Because I would have said, oh, it's this. And then when I went through the process and I got my why back, which is to contribute, I was like, are you sure? And then I started looking at my life, and I went to my wife, and I was like, this is what it came up with. I thought it would be this, but this. And she goes, oh no, that's totally you. You have a hard time saying yes to or no to people. You say yes to everything. You're always out giving people free advice when I'm telling you to charge, all the stuff, right? She's going through the list. So it was so clarifying for me that I started sharing it with everybody. Like, it's so powerful. Mm-hmm. When you had that, because there's 9. Yep. How long did it take you to realize there was 9? Was there ever more and you realize, oh, that's redundant, and actually goes into the same one? And I know that's 2 questions, but how long did it take you to realize, and were there ever more than the 9?
So here's how it happened. Like I said, I started helping anybody who would let me discover their why. And one time I was working with this group of about 50 lawyers in Florida, and I was told that
fun.
Yeah. Well, I was told that I was going to be on stage for about 45 minutes. And would I bring somebody out of the audience on stage with me and discover their why in front of the audience, like I always did, and then help them build their messaging, marketing, and branding? I said, sure, I'll do that. So I went out there to do it. And 14 hours later, I'm still on stage, bringing person after person. At 14 hours, I was there.
Oh my gosh.
But
I'll be building them for every 14 hours. I'll be building them for
I should. But about halfway through that day, this lawyer raised her hand, and she said, hey, Gary, how many whys are there? And I thought, well, I don't know. I never thought about that before. And that's when I started to keep track of them. And the same 9 kept coming up over and over and over. And here's the thing. For those of you that are listening, your why is housed, if you will, in the limbic part of your brain. That's the part of the brain that's responsible for feelings like loyalty and trust, but it doesn't have the capacity for language. So you can't really say why you feel a certain way. You just do. And so the way I would access the limbic brain or your why was through stories. So I would have you tell me story after story after story. And then within those stories, I could see the pattern. And that was what your why was. And imagine that you've become very, let's say you were painting a picture up on the wall and you become very emotionally involved with it, physically involved with it, spiritually involved with this picture, this painting. And you create this masterpiece up on your wall. And it takes you months and months and months to create that masterpiece. Once it's on the wall, now there are other ways to get to that masterpiece. You could do paint by numbers. You could take a picture and break it down and create the outline and fill it in that way. There's so many other ways to get to that painting once somebody has put it up on the wall. Well, I spent years figuring out that there's 9 different whys. But once I figured out there were 9 whys, then I figured out a different way to get to them where you don't have to hear all the stories. Once I knew they were there, I knew what people would say with each of the 9 whys. And that's how I was able to get to turn it into software.
That's
And
where
so,
it made me think when you were saying you're up on that stage for the 14 hours asking the questions, like you were basically, I'm guessing, processing them through their stories and their questions, coming down to a common denominator of their life.
Yep.
But weren't thinking, oh, look, yours is the same as that person's over there. You're in the sense of the same being just the why, not the how and the what. But
yep.
There was no structure in that sense to it. So I can totally relate to that because that's how I felt like I did. I used to call it the frying pan, where I would say, I'm going to get you in the frying pan. You're going to say, I'm going to ask you questions. And I would use body language and the questions with it. And and man, coming up, realizing it's 9 had been such a relief to you.
Yes.
To be able to say, oh yeah, there's 9. Everybody fits in that.
So if you don't know whether you're there, if you don't know whether you've gotten to your why, how do you know when to stop?
Yeah.
That was the problem, right? You ran into that yourself.
Yep, totally.
Well, I think that might be your why. How does it feel to you? Well, I don't know. Kind of feels like it is to me too. I'm not sure though. So if you don't have confidence in it, how likely is it you're going to want to use it? How comfortable are you going to be with it? But once I figure, and Dino, this is the other crazy part. I cannot tell you when I knew there was 9. I can't go back to that moment in time. All of a sudden there were 9, and I don't have a specific date. I can't say I woke up and there they were. I can't say I don't know how that actually happened. I just know all of a sudden there were 9, and it's never varied from that. We've never had a 10th, and there's never been too many. It's just always been 9. And I don't know if that's a God-given thing or what it is. And I don't know why it's me that was tasked with this or figured this out. I have no idea how to even answer that or process that question. I just know that's what happened. And it's held true over and over and over.
But as you say that though, what's fascinating is in a moment, I know we're going to get to the how and the what, right? Because I think, again, when we talk about your why, the missing piece, it just the visual I had in my head when you said that about the 9, that you don't know when they happened, but they were just there.
Yeah.
When you include that with the how and the what, to me, it's that like the interlocking thing that's like, oh, those all fit together, because those 9 are also going to be part of the how and the what, how you do stuff, and that's fascinating.
So there are 9, for those of you listening, there are 9 different whys, and all of us have all of them. But one of them is more dominant than the rest. And that's the one that becomes your why. So in Dino's case, his why is to contribute to a greater cause, add value, have an impact in the lives of others. He uses his time, his money, his energy, his connections to push other people forward.
Yep.
He's the glue that holds organizations together, right? He doesn't necessarily have to be the focus, but he wants to contribute in a meaningful way.
It's so, Gary, I didn't plan this, but literally, what did we do before we started recording? I was just like, hey, have you talked to this guy? Because I just see people. That's so funny because I know this about myself, but then that you even just saying that, I'm like, yeah, I do all the time that I don't even know what happened afterwards. Just like, hey, you should connect this person. I did that twice earlier today with another guest I had on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Can't stop yourself, right? Can't turn it off either.
No. And it's so, it's who, when we talk about who are you, right? And knowing who you are.
Yep.
I got to tell you, for me, it's something I remind myself of at least once a week now, where I'm just like, oh yeah, that's why I'm a contributor. I'll even use that as an excuse sometimes to my wife, honey, I'm a contributor. You can't blame me. I know you don't want me to spend time with this person, but I'm a contributor. That's what I do.
And here's where, so the next part is knowing your why is critical, but just as important is knowing your how and your what. So it's why you do what you do, your motivation, how you bring your why to life, your process, and ultimately what you bring, which is your deliverable. Yeah. And so we call that your WHY.os, or why operating system. It's the system that guides you. And so knowing your why is powerful, but 3 times more powerful is knowing your WHY.os.
Yep.
And so what we found is that one of the 9 whys is your why, one of them is your how, and one of them is your what. And so, Dino, you know your WHY.os, so I'll let you, or I can say it if you want.
Hey, there's no reason to learn how to own your role on your own. If you like that clip, go ahead and click right here for another one. Or if you want to watch the entire podcast, go ahead and click right here. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.